We're calling the legislative meeting to order. We will start with our Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Burdell Williams.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Burdell Williams will read the statement of acknowledgement in honor of indigenous and diverse communities.
Thank you, Madam President. We begin this meeting with acknowledgement of and honor for the many legacies that have impacted our community, particularly those buried over time. Acknowledging truth is crucial to building mutual respect and connection across all barriers of heritage and difference. Cheltenham Township stands within the Lenape-Hoking, the ancestral homeland of the Lenni Lenape civilization. Their people were and still are caretakers of this land and its rivers, and their legacy continues. We pay respect to their elders past and present. Our community owes its existence and vitality to generations from around the world who contributed their hopes, dreams, and energy to making the history that led to this moment. Some were brought here against their will. Some were drawn to leave their distant homes in hope of a better life, and some have lived on this land for more generations than can be counted. Please take a moment to consider the many legacies of violence, displacement, migration, and settlement that bring us together. As a school district committed to fostering intellectual curiosity and discourse in service of social justice, join us in uncovering such truths.
Thank you, Mr. Burdell Williams. Ms. Harding will do the roll call.
Ms. Blitzstein.
Present.
Mr. Burdell Williams.
Present.
Mr. Epps.
Present.
Ms. Henry.
Present.
Ms. Lohman.
Present.
Ms. Mulhern. Ms. Okay. Ms. Murphy.
Present.
Mr. Schultz.
Present.
And Dr. Whiting.
Present.
Thank you. That concludes the roll call.
Thank you, Ms. Harding. We have public comments on agenda items only. If you are in the auditorium, you can step up to the podium. Please announce your name and where you reside in the district. If you are watching streaming or online, you can email CSD board meeting comments at cheltenham.org. If you are on Zoom, you can raise your hand and you will be unmuted. Mr. Diazio will provide the solicitor's report for sunshine announcements.
Thank you. The board met in executive session tonight prior to the public board meeting. The items that were discussed were the personnel action items that are on the agenda this evening for approval, as well as the superintendent goals for the current school year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Diazio. Next, we have our student council report.
Good evening, school board members. My name is Emma Zubeiru. The Cheltenham Student Council met on Wednesday, September 4th. I will now read out the updates. The Civics and Community Engagement Council will be working with Judy Bloodstein in the class of 2025 for voter registration. The homecoming game is September 27th against Souderton. There will be a tailgate this year, and the homecoming dance will be on September 28th, and the theme is Alice in Wonderland. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Zubeiru. I didn't pronounce it right. Zubeiru. I'll get it. Next, we have the superintendent's report.
Good evening, everyone. It's my pleasure to bring forth the superintendent's report for September 10th, 2024. And I want to start by stating that every year we try to move a little further with respect to structures, systems, protocols within the district. As we are working our strategic plan, which has 7 pillars, it's really imperative under teaching and learning that we establish an instructional framework that really serves as our North Star towards everybody being on the same page with respect to best practices and really making sure that we are giving a high quality instruction which will transfer ultimately to student outcomes. If you look at the first slide, it reads, exemplary schools use an instructional framework. And we use the term exemplary because you have typical schools, which are those that middle of your road kind of status quo. And then you have those that are your high flyers. I call those the exemplary schools or school districts because they're synonymous. We are aspiring to be an exemplary school district, simply meaning that every school within our district will operate and have outcomes that are at a high level or a high standard. High achievement always takes place in the framework of high expectations. And that's something that we really want to see across the board, is that every person, no matter the role, I'm not just talking teachers, I'm talking principals, I'm talking building service workers, custodial, maintenance, you name it. We should have high expectations around what we do. Next slide. So what is the importance of having a common framework? You've heard me talk a lot about the need to break out of silos. When we operate in silos, we are not benefiting from the collective intellect of individuals within the group. We have teachers, we have administrators, we have department chairs, we have reading specialists, and so on, that truly are remarkable at what they do. We have to leverage that intellect, and that's what an instructional framework does. It breaks us out of silos, and it gives us a systemic framework in which we all have a clear understanding of. More importantly, it has all arrows pointing the same direction. If all arrows are pointing the same direction, that means we are an aligned unit, and it alleviates chaos and dysfunction. Next slide, please. Benefits of a common instructional framework. When we talk about consistency, organization, and certainty, we are not flying by the seats of our pants. We are one team operating from one drumbeat, and that is so important. It does not mean that this is a cookie cutter approach. We recognize that each one of our communities are unique, and respectively that some of the needs, resources, or the approaches with regard to initiatives may vary. But there is a common thread around the how and the standard that's going to be set with respect to doing the work. I want to call out under organization this one piece around lesson planning and instruction. There's no way that we can deliver high quality instruction unless we are planning for it. And the one thing that I have owned as superintendent and with my assistant sup at the table right now, we are striving to make sure that our curriculum written and our resources are one that are of high quality and truly meet the needs of our students. We own the fact that we need to have that in place as we're looking at putting this instructional framework in place. And these are going to be two parallel pieces that are going to be moving as we go through this school year. Next slide, please. We had an opportunity at the end of last year, as I always do as superintendent, to hear from the voices of our first, our second, and our third year teachers. Mrs. Savage was able to be part of that dialogue, and we really learned a lot as they had a voice in sharing what their lived experience was around our induction program, around our mentoring program, and around our professional development program. And we've already taken steps this year to make adjustments to all three to make sure that we are truly providing robust training that is aligned to whatever the gaps that currently exist programmatically within our district. By doing so, we're making sure that the professionals that are touching our students each and every day have the toolkit that they need to be successful. Next slide, please. This is going to be a common thread. So intentional lesson planning. It's simply about best practices, not being in isolation, and us leveraging those practices across the district. We've put structures together this year where all of our first grade teachers, or second grade, or third grade, are able to come together collectively and meet as we're really trying to make our professional learning communities true professional learning communities where best practices around instruction are being discussed, shared, and individuals are being empowered and equipped to be more effective at the art of teaching. The framework benefit provides a consistent approach for lesson planning, something that we will be working on and have already started to push out is a framework for what a scope and sequence of a lesson should look like, delineated by grade and also by level. Next slide, please. Meeting diverse student needs. Equity and inclusion is at the heart of what we do. And I'm going to refer to my note right here to make sure that I hit this. Differentiation is key. That's nice when you don't need your notes. The differentiation is really key around the equity piece. We have to make sure that our faculty, our staff, really understand the learning modalities of the students that are sitting in front of them and are equipped to scaffold for our students, to build in times where they can check for understanding, to make sure that their exit tickets or formative assessments or questioning are assessing students' comprehension as they're moving through the lesson. And even before that is making sure that we have mastery objectives that are posted where students even know ahead of time what the agenda for the day looks like for them. What should be their takeaway as it relates to new learning? And how are they going to go about being afforded opportunities to acquire that? Next slide, please. Consistent and effective teaching. Plan and instruct at levels necessary for student success. That's the differentiation being revisited again. Our job is to enhance teachers' capacity in terms of, and this is a key word, and I'm laughing because Mrs. Savage always has a catchphrase now that rigor means love. We're not making an assumption of what our students can or cannot do. But because we have high expectations, we are setting high rigor in the activities and the planning in which we do to give the students a bar which will push them and not limit them. Next slide, please. Promoting high-level learning. Student discourse is crucial. That the day of sit and get is really over. We've just bought brand new furniture that's on wheels at Elkins Park. Well, why is that? Because we don't want the traditional setting like we have here in the auditorium, where you have 5 columns, maybe 10 deep, and the teacher simply standing in front of the classroom. Part of the learning process should enable students to have discourse with one another, and that should be rigorous discourse. The activities in terms of unlocking new learning should be high level. We have to be very intentional around building those types of experiences for kids into our daily lesson plans. And it has to be practical. We talk about this high-level instruction. Well, we have to equip our teachers with what that should look like. And it is happening in many of our classrooms, but it doesn't mean that it's happening with the fidelity in which it should in all of our classrooms. And that's what we're striving for when we talk about what being exemplary looks like. Next slide, please. Addressing root causes and failure. This really speaks to being data-driven. We always talk about the educational process in a light of continuous improvement. We have to look at the data. We have to have conversations. We have to be reflective based on where our students are at what we need to do differently in terms of reteaching, in terms of accelerating, or in terms of enriching. And that's something that we have to own as the adults. Next slide, please. Integrating literacy across content areas. We all have to be reading specialists. And I'm going to add something coming out of our last board retreat, which you should being pushed out, is not just the literacy, but it's the writing component as well, and how we are very intentional in terms of making sure we see that being integrated in every classroom throughout our district, and helping teachers have the confidence and feel comfortable with building that into their daily instruction and what that needs to look like even in a physical education class or unpacking that in an art class. Next slide, please. The impact of a common instructional framework. Consistency in structure, improve professional learning and collaboration, enhance teaching and student outcomes. That's our ultimate goal. I normally don't read slides, but that speaks for itself. I don't want this individual, I want to surprise this person, so let me frame this. There is actually an honor roll that the board has in terms of service. And as I pivot to another portion of my presentation, I do want to honor one of our members that is sitting at the table with us today, Mr. Charles Burdell Williams, for 5 years of service on the board. If I can find it, honor roll, school board service, 5 years. The governing board of the Pennsylvania School Boards Association proudly presents a certificate of appreciation to Charles Burdell Williams, Cheltenham Township School District, in recognition of ongoing school board service and the long-term contributions of individuals who bring their energy, talent, and values to the guidance of youth and public education in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So I want to just award you with that certificate. I didn't know that. So. All right. Yes, sir. And then last but not least, I'm gonna have Mr. Kaufman just kind of cue up, our first opening day ceremonies throughout the district. Just put a little video together. Always want to end on a note of the why we're here and why we do what we do. So. We'll turn it back to Madam Chair. That concludes my report for tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Scriven. It was a great report and a great beginning of the school year. Very exciting. Next, we will have our committee reports and financial affairs. I will provide that report. So the financial affairs meeting was held on September 3rd with co-chair Daniel Schultz presiding. And the committee reviewed historical local tax collections over the past 5 fiscal years. Noting was the fluctuations in transfer and delinquent real estate taxes. Next, the committee reviewed the district's long-range capital plan, including the next action items for Glenside Elementary, Cedarbrook Middle School, and air conditioning at the high school. Third, the district reviewed the budget preparation timeline throughout the school year and how it relates to the Act 1 index and milestone approval dates. Finally, the committee reviewed a follow-up on the state budget and the timing of funding to be received. The next Financial Affairs Committee meeting will be held on Tuesday, October 1st. And that concludes my report. The Educational Affairs Committee report will be provided by Dr. Whiting.
Thank you, Madam President. The Educational Affairs Committee did not meet in August. The next Educational Affairs Committee meeting will be on Tuesday, September 17th in a hybrid format and here at the Administrative Building and on Zoom. Thank you. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Whiting. Mr. Burdell Williams will provide a report for Eastern Center for Arts and Technology.
Thank you, Madam President. The Eastern Center for Arts and Technology met on Wednesday, August 7th, 2024. Our August meeting is always unique in the sense that, unlike the other Joint Operating Committee meetings, we do not have a student of the month because school has typically not started by the time we have this meeting. However, I will share an update just to reflect on some details regarding a group of students who won bronze at the Skills USA National Competition. So you may recall from my last report that I did share some information about this group, not just because it includes Maren Goldfarb, who is a recent graduate of Cheltenham High School, but in that there's a number of programs through Skills USA, which is the national culmination of a year-long process where students will build a presentation, review that presentation with peers, and then work their way up, just like many other competitions. And I think one of the things that's really important about this is that the vast majority of the Skills USA champions, or even the folks who participate, the students who participate, they work in groups, right? These are folks who aren't necessarily from the same school, they're not necessarily from the same backgrounds, but they find a way to put themselves together and blend into a collective in order to drive toward a common theme. Even more interesting about this particular group, which other than Maren also included Kaylin Yaskowski from Springfield, as well as Carolyn Keem from Jenkintown, is that they selected a theme called No Limits, which focused on non-traditional Eastern students. And the goal there was to showcase those students pursuing career aspirations in the words of the presenters without conforming to societal norms. So just adding more into allowing space for students to be the best versions of themselves, and seeing students do that, specifically one from Cheltenham, says a lot about what I think we're all doing in Montgomery County, but it also is a strong reflection point about what we're doing here in Cheltenham, that we have a student who's able to participate, but also get to the point where this is at a national level, right? So again, strong levels of feedback from that group about their experience, but also one that I wanted to take a moment to also share that all of those students were in Eastern's design, photography, and illustration program. That is one of Eastern's 2-year program offerings. There are some that are 1, some that are 2, where an individual covers everything from conceptual drawing and design to a professional portfolio. They learn the value and application of their unique styles in both design and illustration, and how to use industry standard software on the Macintosh platform. That software includes Adobe InDesign, Adobe Photoshop, and Adobe Illustrator. Upon the completion of the program, those students have a portfolio consisting of items for entry into their post-secondary school of choice, as well as National Portfolio Day. So again, big ups to those students, and looking for more. Eastern always has a strong set of students that participate in Skills USA. So looking forward to that again this year. We received an update on the 2024-2025 student registration. So for the 2024-2025 school year, enrollment is currently at 699 students, with 93 students on the wait list. So that is at 94% capacity. Again, there are some programs at Eastern that are at capacity and some that are not, and what the staff at Eastern, as well as the counselors here in Cheltenham, will do is try to find a second or third choice for a student who's on that wait list. However, for students who are being waitlisted, that could present a challenge in terms of a missed opportunity for them. And the administration at Eastern, as well as the Joint Operating Committee, understand that challenge. And so we are involved in some discussions now around some alternative means to potentially opening up additional sessions, potentially afternoon sessions or alternate days of the week, to allow opportunities to fill some of these seats that are currently waitlisted. Again, those are 93 students at Eastern specifically, but that particular challenge is a statewide challenge, not just at Eastern, where folks are really trying to find alternative means forward there. We received a number of updates in the personnel space as well. And one to note is that currently, like Jerry Rooney, he was approved as the safety and security coordinator as a part of his normal duties. Jerry Rooney is he's like one of the folks who hold Eastern together and got a significant role in not just safety and security, but climate as well, and does a lot of work to support the Eastern community, not just from a safety perspective. That concludes the majority of my report. The next meeting of the Eastern Center for Arts and Technology is tomorrow, September 11th at 8 p.m. via Zoom. The link is available on Eastern's website at eastech.org, and that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Burdell Williams. Ms. Lohman will provide the MCIU update.
Thank you, Ms. Henry. The Montgomery County Intermediate Unit MCIU Board met on Wednesday, August 28th, 2024 at 6:45 p.m. in person at the MCIU's main offices in Norristown and over Zoom. The board welcomed 2 new members from the Pottsgrove and Perkiomen Valley School Districts and heard from the new board president, Janet Flesack, who is a member of the Souderton Area School District School Board. The bulk of the meeting was revolved around a presentation that the board received from Sandy Edling, who is familiar to folks in our district. She is the MCIU's Chief Financial Officer and Director of Business Services. Ms. Edling presented a 110-page budget overview for the 2024-2025 fiscal year 2025. This document was created to present the MCIU's entire fiscal year budget in a comprehensive manner because the MCIU has many, many different programs. Consolidating an IU's complex budget into a single document is challenging. There were over 100 different cost centers represented, and the budgets certainly encompass a wide array of programs and services. The consolidated budget was organized into 7 distinct categories based on those program and service types, which include early childhood services, early intervention, pre-K counts, or Head Start, school-age program and services, teaching and learning support, technology support services, the Pennsylvania Training and Technical Assistance East, PATAN or PATAN, depending on how you call it, for which the MCIU is the fiscal agent, the member services budget, and the other funds such as student transportation services and capital projects fund. The total IU budget for fiscal year 25, using all of the cost center listings, is $192,743,028. $192 million, big budget. The IU currently receives about 32% of its funding from federal sources and 43% from state sources, with local sources, school district membership dues, fee for service, making up the balance. The plan is to have this budget book be revised and kept up to date and presented to the board every year moving forward. Although it was certainly a huge heavy lift for the business office the first time around. It was a ton of work. But it is extremely informative, and I shared it with the full board. If you have any questions about it, please let me know. It's long, but it is informative. Dr. Regina Speaker, the MCIU's executive director, then provided some updates about some of the IU's new educational programming, including that at the Southeast Youth Development Center, which started in early August 2024. This is a juvenile. It's a new youth development center, it's a juvenile detention facility that the state started, and MCIU is working in partnership with the Perkiomen Valley School District in operating the educational component of this program through a contracted agreement with the Perkiomen Valley School District. It will cost about $2.5 million to run the program. In addition, the MCIU has opened a Pathways to Empowerment program. Dr. Speaker said the program was developed at the request of several superintendents who are looking for a program for students who received 45-day interim alternative placements for disciplinary reasons. 5 students will be starting next week at the MCIU's main building, and there will most likely be about 30 students total when the program moves to its final location. The other thing of note is that Dr. Speaker noted that the IU now has 925 employees. At the time of the publication of that budget book, which was in June of 2024, the MCIU was anticipating having 834 employees. So the MCIU hired almost 100 more employees in the intervening between June and August. The 10 office directors then presented their reports and items for board approval. Some highlights included The Office of Innovation and Strategic Partnership had requested board approval for a consortium agreement with something called Find Your Grind. Google it. And the IU will share consortium pricing with its districts. I mention this because it's actually a job planning type of program. This is from Find Your Grind's website. Find Your Grind delivers future-ready learning experiences that empower administrators and educators to support students in navigating the future of work and develop the skills and competence to thrive in a rapidly changing world. So he was very excited about this program, seemed very pleased that the IU was able to sign an agreement with them. So I mentioned that seems like sort of an interesting program. The Office of Technology Services presented 93 contracts for board approval, many involving the IU's networking services and cybersecurity support. The Office of Student Services presented several contracts as well for the board's approval, including some involving Envision, which is a new transition program which has been started by the IU this school year to promote career and technical education to students with complex needs. So the IU's got several different new programs that they're rolling out this year, and those are just a few of them. The only other thing I wanted to mention is that Ms. Edling, in her report, said that the MCIU is no longer moving forward with the idea of a countywide health center for use by school district employees, although a few districts are still looking at this idea on their own, including Upper Merion. The next MCIU board meeting on Wednesday, September 25th at 6:45 p.m. in person at the MCIU's main office in Norristown and also over Zoom. This ends my report.
Thank you, Ms. Lohman. Ms. Blitzstein will provide the Facilities Committee report.
Thank you, Madam President. The Facilities Committee meeting was held on September 3rd, 2024, and the following agenda items were discussed. A Facilities Appreciation Breakfast was held on August 16th to thank our facilities employees for their hard work over the summer months. Ms. C. from Myers and Mr. Stevens from the high school were honored for perfect attendance for the 23-24 school year. FMX is in use as a work order system and preventative maintenance schedule to help plan out when things will need to be replaced. At the high school, we were updated on kiln refurbishment, which has saved the district over $10,000. The cleaning of the tennis courts, which were cleaned for the first time in 20 years. And the Terrazzo project, where one of our maintenance people stayed until 2 a.m. to learn the process of floor care, and he will be training other custodians to do the same in other buildings. The Elkins Park and Cedarbrook Middle School recycling has been rolled out. Elkins Park School also received new furniture that will follow students in the future. We received an EPIC project update. The mods have been cleaned out. We celebrated that 13 tons of metal was removed, 240 cubic yards of debris also removed in cooperation with the township, and the ribbon cutting ceremony took place on August 22nd, 2024. We received an update on the football field, and it was noted that changing football to Saturdays is hard on families. There was a request for fan buses for students to attend away games. The items on the consent agenda for approval include the bell system at Wincote to be repaired/replaced, new cafeteria tables for the high school, purchase of access control hardware, supplies, and configuration for the EPIC building, and the replacement of the existing playground wear course at Glenside Elementary. More information on each of these purchases can be found in the agenda. The full presentation for the September 3rd meeting may be found on the district's website homepage by clicking on the school board, then committees, facilities, and then drop down to 24-25 for this year's presentations. Next month's hybrid meeting will be held on Tuesday, October 1st at 7 p.m. here at the administration building and on Zoom. This concludes my report.
Thank you, Ms. Blitzstein. Mr. Schultz will provide the liaison group update.
Thank you, Ms. Henry. The liaison group
did not meet since the last board meeting. Our next scheduled meeting is this coming Monday, September 16th, so there will be an updated report in October. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Schultz. Mr. Epp will provide the policy committee update.
There was an EP in high school right next to me. Good evening, everyone. Had a bit of nostalgia. Sorry. When you said EP, there was an EP in high school sorry. Anyway, tonight's policy committee meeting. I'm a co-chair of the policy committee along with Ms. Jennifer Lohman. And so we did meet in person on August 27th at 7 p.m. and it was streamed online. After roll call and approval of the April 25th, 2024 minutes, we discussed the policies that are listed on tonight's consent agenda. There are 3 policies on tonight's agenda for adoption. That's 227, dealing with controlled substances, 233 on suspensions and expulsion, 260, makeup work after absence. Each of these policies under consideration will follow the guidelines of an administrative regulation, which do not require approval by school directors, but are always available for public review as well. Other topics discussed during our new business portion resulted in 7 policies for first read tonight. That is 807 on opening exercises, 803 around the school calendar, which also has an AR. 801 around access to public access to district records. 804 around the school day. 103 equal opportunity and non-discrimination in school and classroom practices, as well as 104 on the same topic regarding employment and contract practices. And then I think we are repealing 348. Yes, right. And then we have one repeal of 348 around discriminatory harassment. That is really going to be covered by 103 and 104. So we have our next meeting on Tuesday, October 22nd, 2024, in person at the administration building and also streamed online via Zoom. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Epps.
It was the nostalgia. Yeah.
And you're up again for the legislative report.
Yes, good afternoon again. The General Assembly is not in session quite yet. They come back in session later this month, but there are a couple updates to share as a member of the Montgomery County School Board Legislative Committee. So we meet periodically to discuss just ongoing topics related to education. And so based on the budget agreement, I did want to share a couple updates that there have been some school and fiscal code changes. Some of the things to highlight, I'm going to highlight about 3 of them, but there are many to check out. One is the Ready to Learn block grant, something also that we heard in our recent financial committee meeting. Something to share with our community. About $526 million will be really provided for all districts throughout the state related to tax equity. And so something we've talked about in our community is the tax burden on our residents. And so the state is awarding, in one way or another, about $1.2 million to Cheltenham to alleviate essentially our tax burden. And so there's more details to come in terms of the instructions to apply, how we'll be able to use the funds, and other requirements, hopefully within the next coming weeks. But that's something to monitor, and again, something that will be a benefit to our district. Cyber charter special education. We've talked about cyber charters. We've talked about special education separately, but those 2 things are coming together as part of the code changes. And so one piece, the cyber charter special education tuition will now, there's some reform so that the tuition is actually based on the percent of students within the district, as opposed to a formula that was based on state law. That was not based on the reality of the district. So now the tuition will be based on what actual district numbers, and that is expected to save about $35 million for districts throughout the Commonwealth. And that's 1 year. So that's an annual savings that will be realized as part of this legislation. And then finally, but not least, related to cyber charter schools as well, there will be about $100 million provided for the entire Commonwealth. About 289,000 of that for Cheltenham, but that is to serve as a charter school subsidy, essentially a reimbursement for tuition that is paid by districts. So that is also something that we'll expect to have an annual recurring, hopefully, savings for the district. So as I mentioned, the General Assembly will reconvene at the end of this month. As a board, we will discuss what will be our own legislative priorities. We do have some support from the School Board Association and others that provide us with constant, and again, the Legislative Committee that provides us with constant updates about important topics being discussed, and we will certainly take opportunities to advocate as we can. So with that concludes my report. Thank you very much.
That was a very good report. Not that your other reports aren't, but that one in particular, you know, it's always great when we're getting additional funding. Thank you, Mr. Epps. So next we have the approval of our minutes. Can I have a motion to approve? All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed say nay. And the motion carries. The minutes are approved. We will move to the approval of our consent agenda. Can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any public or any comments from the board? Ms. Blisting?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to give a hat tip to several volunteers that are on the consent agenda for approval, and also just make a note to any families tuning in that this is something important to, if you'd like to chaperone any field trips this year or help out in your child's school building, which we would love since we now are allowed to have parent volunteers back in the buildings, you'll want to get your process underway quickly so that you've got that taken care of for the next 5 years. So thank you to the two of you.
Thank you, Ms. Blisting. Mr. Bedell-Williams?
Yep. Thank you, Madam President. Ms. Blisting did lean in to acknowledge volunteers. I want to acknowledge one specifically. So Ms. Wagner, who had just recently retired from the district, was the third and fourth grade teacher for both of my children. Is a volunteer in the district. I know she lives in the community, so just happy to see her back. Great impact at Glenside, so I understand why she's there, and I'm happy. And I'm sure the Glenside community, if that's specifically where her energy will be in this volunteer realm, they'll be grateful as well. So just happy to see her there and to acknowledge that.
Thank you, Mr. Bedell-Williams. All right, Mr. Epps?
Thanks. Whenever I can, I like to, I think Principal Taylor, when there's nothing else to say, whatever it is, say it again. Thank you. But honestly, thank you, because I always take an opportunity to point out when we are voting and approving things that will enhance the student experience. And so we were at the Epic School not too long ago. I think we have the principal in attendance tonight as well. Welcome. And so when I see the We R H.O.P.E, the anxiety management coaching services being brought in immediately, it shows that we're putting not just our words, we're putting our resources where it matters in service of students. So I appreciate that. And also we heard some very great anecdotes from the high school and the leadership and how that is creating spaces for belonging for students, and also ensuring that they're getting the resources they need to show up as people and as students as well. So thank you to administration. Please continue to find the resources, and we will excitedly vote and approve them to enhance the student experience.
Thank you, Mr. Epps. All right, so next we'll take the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. All right, the motion carries. Next, we will have public comments on non-agenda items. If you are in the auditorium and have a comment, you can step to the podium and announce your name and where you reside in the community. If you are online or streaming, You can email CSD board meeting comments at cheltenham.org, or if you're on Zoom, you can raise your hand.
My name is Toby Grubman. I live in Roland Park in the other end of the township, and I am a graduate of Cheltenham High School. I am a mother of 4 graduates of Cheltenham High School, and I am a Philadelphia Public School. I retired as a special education teacher and a school counselor. And some of you know me, some of you do not know me, but I came to just introduce myself and let you know about a program called Champions for Cheltenham. Champions for Cheltenham was started a number of years ago at Congregation Knesset, the Israel Synagogue. We originally worked with the social worker, Jen Mosier, to provide financial support. And over the years, when I retired 10 years ago, I ran a tutoring program in a Philadelphia public school. But after the pandemic, we decided to come to Cheltenham. So the tutoring program started at Cheltenham Elementary 2 years ago. And last year we expanded to include other agencies other than KI. I had 40 tutors in the Cheltenham schools. And this year we're expanding. The only school we weren't in last year was Myers, and this year we're expanding to Myers. So I wanted to let you know this program is in existence, and I am the volunteer coordinator, and I do my best to make sure the volunteers are set in the building. We work with every school community individually to make sure we meet the needs of that individual school. There's a coordinated liaison in each building, and I try to meet with them to make sure that every school runs a little differently and that the tutors meet the needs of the school community. And that's the story. And I have a little, I only made 10 copies, but I have a little note. And I joined daughters on school and my parents did not go to Cheltenham, but my grandparents in 1946 bought the sample house on Cheltenham Hills Drive. So I truly am like the most Cheltenham person you could want. And my email is on there, and please feel free. I really, Jessica Keene is our contact for the tutoring program. But I really thought it was important that I came in and introduced myself. I'm not moving, I'm staying in Cheltenham. And I really feel it's important that the schools get their dues. And when we get volunteers in the building, they always come out and say, I can't believe the good things that are happening in the building, rather than sometimes having in their head that the schools are not what they were when I graduated in 1970. So they are. They're terrific. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. So, Mrs. Grubman, I know we had the opportunity to meet before, but I just wanted to thank you for your service. I definitely want to connect you to Mrs. Savage, our new assistant superintendent, just to make sure that we are being the best partners that we can be with this initiative. So thank you.
And my age, I taught with Dr. Scriven's father, Walt. So I look very young, but that's how old.
Thank you so much. All right, there are no prior public questions that need to be addressed here. And our future meetings are as listed on the agenda. And I will call for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
The meeting is adjourned. Thank you.